In the years I've spent working closely with compact tractors, selling them, servicing them, and pulling more than a few out of ditches, there are 5 mistakes I see new owners make over and over. It's not that people are careless. It's that the manual buries the important numbers next to 50 pages of parts diagrams, and most people never sit down and read it cover to cover. Here are the 5, in order, with the actual numbers and mechanics behind each one, including the mistake that put a $900 repair bill on my neighbor's kitchen table over something a $40 jug of fluid would have prevented. Nearly all 5 show up within the first 100 hours of ownership, which is exactly the window manufacturers use to define the break-in period. The first one is the mistake I see happen right in the driveway before people even make it to the field. It comes down to a real engineering number most owners never see: loader ballast. Loader attachments are rated using a standard called tipping load. That's the amount of weight in the bucket that would physically lift the rear tires off the ground. Manufacturers publish a rated operating capacity for the bucket, and that number is deliberately set at roughly half of the actual tipping load, so there's a built-in safety margin. The problem is that margin only exists if the tractor is ballasted the way the manufacturer intended when they calculated it. Skip the rear ballast, whether that's wheel weights, a suitcase weight kit on the 3-point hitch, or a loaded box blade on the back, and you're eating into a safety margin that was never designed to be optional. Wet material makes this worse, because a bucket of wet dirt or gravel can run 30 to 40% heavier than the same volume of dry material. That pushes you toward that tipping threshold faster than the size of the load suggests. A quick way to check yourself is to lift a full bucket slowly on flat ground and watch the rear tires. If you see daylight starting to show under either one before the bucket is even at full height, you don't have enough ballast for what you're trying to do. It's also worth knowing that the rated operating capacity printed in your manual is usually measured with the load carried at a specific, fairly low height. Raising a heavy bucket toward maximum height shifts the center of gravity further forward and higher at the same time, which reduces your real-world stability margin below what the printed number implies, even though you're technically still under the rated weight. That's a safety problem. The next one is a money problem, and it's the exact mistake that put a repair bill on my neighbor's kitchen table. It's fluid, and specifically, the wrong fluid. Most compact tractors come with wet disc brakes. That means the brakes are sealed inside the axle housing and run submerged in oil instead of exposed to air. Those are built around a specific category of fluid usually labeled UTO, which stands for Universal Tractor Transmission Oil. That fluid contains friction modifiers engineered specifically for wet clutch and wet brake material. Standard hydraulic fluid off a parts store shelf doesn't have those additives, and running it through a wet brake system causes the disc packs to lose their designed friction coefficient. In practice, that shows up as brake chatter, and it gets worse over months. My neighbor ran the wrong fluid through his machine for close to a year before the brakes started grabbing hard on one side only. By the time he brought it in, the disc packs had glazed over and needed replacement, and splitting the housing to get at them is almost entirely labor. His bill came in right around $900. The fix is checking your owner's manual for the exact fluid specification before adding anything. And if you bought the tractor used, draining the existing fluid once so you actually know what's in there instead of assuming a previous owner or a dealer got it right. A lot of compact tractors share a single fluid reservoir between the transmission, the wet brakes, and the PTO clutch pack. So running the wrong fluid isn't just a brake problem waiting to happen. It's also working against the PTO clutch material at the same time, which is its own expensive repair if it starts slipping under load. That mistake announces itself fast. The next one is slower and sneakier, and it's happening under the tractor the entire time you drive. It's tire pressure, and the mechanism behind it surprises most people the first time they hear it. Compact tractors with four-wheel drive rely on the front axle spinning very slightly faster than the rear axle. That speed difference is calculated using the rolling radius of the tires at their correct pressure. When pressure drops unevenly between the front and rear, or side to side, the rolling radius changes, and the synchronization the engineers built into the drivetrain gets thrown off. The result is a condition called driveline windup, where torque builds up inside the front axle housing because the front and rear wheels are fighting each other's speed instead of working together. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up as a tight, binding feeling in tight turns. And over time, it stresses the front differential and the four-wheel drive clutch pack. Correct pressure varies by tire type, ag lug, turf, or R4 industrial, and the right number is stamped on the tire sidewall as a maximum, then adjusted down from your owner's manual chart for actual operating pressure. Tires lose roughly 1 to 2 pounds of pressure a month just from normal permeation through the rubber, so checking once at delivery and never again guarantees you'll eventually be running mismatched. Always check when the tires are cold, before the tractor has been driven that day, since heat from driving temporarily raises the reading and can mask a tire that's genuinely low. Left uncorrected long enough, the uneven driveline stress doesn't just wear the differential. It also shows up as irregular, cupped wear on the front tires themselves, which means you end up replacing tires early on top of whatever damage happened to the axle components underneath them. Next up is a habit that costs nothing and takes 5 minutes, which is exactly why almost nobody bothers doing it. It's loading a cold hydrostatic transmission. Hydrostatic drive uses a variable displacement pump to push pressurized fluid through the system instead of a mechanical gear train. The fluid's viscosity at cold temperature is significantly higher than at operating temperature, so it flows slower and doesn't lubricate the pump internals the way it's designed to. Most manufacturers specifically recommend not exceeding half throttle and avoiding heavy loads until the hydraulic fluid reaches operating temperature. That usually takes a few minutes of idle time with the pedal cycled gently forward and back with no load attached. Skip that step and push a cold system into loader work or a steep grade, and the strain lands on the pump's internal components and the seals around the drive shaft. Part of the risk is a process called cavitation. Thick, cold fluid doesn't fill the charge pump's low-pressure side fast enough, and tiny vapor pockets form and collapse inside the pump, which pits the internal surfaces over time the same way it damages a boat propeller running in aerated water. The damage is cumulative rather than immediate, which is exactly why it gets ignored. It shows up as a slow external leak months later, or a transmission that feels noticeably sluggish under load within a year or two. Remember, a hydrostatic pump rebuild is one of the more expensive single repairs on a compact tractor. The last one is the fastest fix on this entire list, and also the one people skip the most, because it feels like it doesn't matter. It's hooking up a 3-point implement without checking hitch category and stabilizer adjustment. 3-point hitches are built to standardized categories, Category 0 and Category 1 being the most common on compact tractors. Category 0 uses lower link pins around 5/8 of an inch in diameter, spaced roughly 20 inches apart, while Category 1 steps up to 7/8 inch pins, spaced about 26 inches apart. Those dimensions are set by industry standard rather than by any individual manufacturer. Mismatched category hardware between your tractor and an implement is a common mistake on its own, particularly with older or secondhand equipment. It puts uneven stress on pins that were never sized for that connection. Beyond hardware match, most new owners skip locking down the sway bars or stabilizer chains after hooking up, which lets the implement swing side to side while driving and accelerates wear on both the hitch pins and the implement mounting points. They also skip adjusting the top link, which controls whether the implement sits level front to back. An implement running nose down or nose up isn't just working incorrectly. It's putting continuous uneven load on the lift arms and the top link pin the entire time it's in use. Snugging the sway bars to remove most of the side play and leveling the top link on flat ground before starting work takes well under a minute, and it meaningfully extends the life of both the tractor's linkage and the implement itself. So that's the list. Each is documented in your owner's manual with the specific numbers for that model, because tipping load, fluid spec, and pressure charts vary by machine. If this looks useful, go ahead and subscribe so you catch the next one.